That's an Irish thing. And kind of a bar thing is that you toast.
That's right. I did it the reverse.
And you
yeah.
touch.
Friends, let me take you back to a late fall night, 1996, 55th Street in Hyde Park. A young Max Grinnell, or a younger Max Grinnell, walks around the corner from his dormitory and sees a sign that reads Cove Lounge. And right about that time is when the neon lit up. That was the first bar I ever went to in the city of Chicago. And I've been back many times since. Said hello to old friends, made some new ones. I've played the piano there before. And I realized then that bars were part of the fabric of a community. I'd never really thought about them before that experience. Some people come to be associated with an amateur sports team. Other folks come just to drink. And lots of folks come for many other reasons. They're part of Chicago's 77 communities. And in today's program, we're going to talk to you about what people do in bars by going out and talking to people in bars.
This bar is very important because it's next to my life, Metro. And so having this part of sort of the campus is what I refer to it as. This was my watering hole. When Nirvana was playing next door, the Pumpkins, I would need a break. And I'd come over here, and it was always a friendly bartender here that I knew all of them by first name. I'd sit in the corner and have a quiet beer. And actually, it's interesting because it started the whole thing that it was this size beer. I'd ask for a shorty. So couldn't drink a whole pint of beer and then run back to work. I could do a couple of sips and keep going, stay on 2 feet for 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, depending on the day. But I think the bar history and the tavern history here in Chicago is just so important. I grew up on the south side, the Beverly neighborhood, and I remember the early taverns that I went to when I was a young man. With my father, we'd go to the bowling alley, and there'd be a little bar off the bowling alley. So it's always, there's a smell to it, there's a taste to it. I think it's a big part of Chicago.
So we've been talking to folks about this throughout the series, kind of the pandemic and bars. Mm-hmm. And I remember as someone who enjoys bars, taverns, etc., thinking, wow, this has been cut out. What was that like when you started experiencing it and talking to people that you found that communion with?
Well, it's interesting because this bar, there's a gentleman that is the manager here. His name is Tom. And Tom and I were always proud of the fact that it was 365 days a year, 7 days a week. We never closed. And with the shutdown, it really was like, whoa. And I would come here just to check on things. The pipes weren't freezing or the lights were not left on. The alarm was set. Just doing what an owner of a bar or a business would do. And Tom began to meet me. We began to talk about ways to sort of bring that communal experience back. We invented something called the Polar Bear Club. And so as the city of Chicago began to look at businesses and trying to keep them open, we were able to sell beer to go. That was one of the things that Rosa, BACP, Shannon figured out a way to help us at that time. So we would open up these windows and literally pour a growler. And then we were sort of like, well, let's just how about if you put some tables on the street? And our alderman, Tom Tunney, was, yeah, you can do that. And the next thing we know, we've got tables out in front. We're serving beer through the window. We call it the Polar Bear Club because literally this would have been December, January, February, March, rain, snow, but there'd be people out there. And some of those people still come almost every Saturday because it was hard for everybody, but cathartic in the sense that we all knew we needed to be around each other. So I would set up turntables and play loud rock and roll records and some jazz records and some blues records and just blast the music through the windows, and people would stand out there, have a beer, run a tab up, tip the bartender well. And I think between Tom and Kelly, myself, Rory, Chance, and Alex, we held it. We held it together. And we enjoyed seeing each other each Saturday. And we were in Mass, and people were outside standing in winter clothes. Matter of fact, a certain Jenny Lizak was one of our first customers.
I've heard this name.
Yeah, she's
amazing.
She's
really
famous around these parts.
Love her work.
Around these parts here, because she and her boyfriend came and stood at the window. At one point, I had actually two Metro publicists standing next to each other, Shannon Shriekback and Jenny Lizak, and they were sharing a beer in the cold,
Wow.
in
Wow.
puffy coats, man.
I love it. The best of both worlds.
Of course.
Oh my goodness, that is amazing. And like so many other places, like you say, you want to be around people.
Yeah.
You want to have that experience, the triumvirate of music, conversation, and beer.
Sure. Well, I think that it's interesting because we did serve some spirits too, because the cocktails to go became something that, again, the BACP and City of Chicago and our aldermen worked to keep some of these businesses open. As meager as it was, and it was meager, it wasn't the kind of money that we were used to, but it was enough for a shift bartender or a shift doorman and me. I know that we're going to try to do a couple more Saturdays even as we come out of this, because it became something of a tradition and something we'll probably continue to do.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, post-baseball.
Friends, here we are, a perfect fall afternoon. The evening will come. We're in Chicago's Malt Row, here in Ravenswood. Beguile Brewing, Dovetail Brewing. Truly, two icons of the neighborhood. We're going to take a moment to go into Dovetail, see who we can talk to about beer and bars. Phil and Nick, where are we, Phil?
We're at Dovetail Brewery. They're a beautiful tap room here in Malt Row in Ravenswood.
How wonderful. Phil, Nick, thank you for being here with us. This is awesome.
It's a pleasure.
Happy to be here.
There's
beer.
Yeah. Cheers. 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 Gentlemen, that's the way to start it, yeah. So for part of this show, we're talking to folks about bars, breweries, that kind of community that people get from these places. So I'm gonna take us to a dark place and then a light place. When the pandemic started, what did you all miss the most? What was kind of your first thoughts or reactions?
Well, I think that we all have our own version of what happened to us during the pandemic. But for many of us, myself included, you start to miss those places that you may just experience on a day-to-day, but you don't realize how important they are to you. And I think that tap rooms, pubs, even a barber shop or a library, the places that people need to go outside of work and outside of home. And this is where we come to exchange ideas, have a laugh, maybe just think about things or what have you while we're having a beer. And that's really important to, I think, not only the stability of the community, but also to just our mental health. We need other people. We live in a city for a reason. And we live in a city for a reason because community's everywhere. It's part of it. It's all around us. And so I think that when tap rooms close or the libraries close for a while or whatnot, we miss that piece of us. And it leaves us empty in some way. So I missed all of the places. And certainly being someone who is passionate about beer, I really miss tap rooms. And I miss this place, you know.
That's wonderful. Nick, what about you?
Well, I don't know that I can say it better. Phil and I work together, and we work at a different brewery. So we kind of worked through the whole pandemic. We had a very weird perspective on it because we work at a brewery and there was a tap room, but there's nobody in it. We could sit there after work and have a beer every day, but we just worked together for 8 or 9 or 10 hours. So it seemed a little strange for us to go and sit down at the bar and there's nobody there to serve ourselves. And, we've been telling each other the same bad jokes all day long, anyways. So yeah, it was almost a little bit more haunting to see like the empty tap room, the empty bar. So yeah, I mean, I obviously just like everybody. Really miss going out, going to bars.
The other thing too, Nick, and this is something that we experience at our job, is that the people that you just become accustomed to seeing every day or every few days, maybe they're just the guy who lives across the alley or what have you. You have some kinship with these people, even if it's just saying hello every morning. And then when the pandemic struck and we didn't have these places anymore and everybody was under lockdown, you start to worry. Well, we started to worry about someone like the older guy who lives across the alley and what's he up to and how's he doing through the pandemic. And we always depend on these places to bring us together just to, even if we're sitting at opposite ends of the bar, you nod to him and say like, hey, Pablo, how's it going? And that would, I don't know, it makes me feel better.
Yeah, no, I'm happy. There were a lot of people, especially in our little isolated, alley community, West Towns, where our brewery is at, our little community that surrounded it. Like, starting to see the regular characters reappear over time was reassuring because that kind of like that empty streets scenario that we all saw, like just haunting, like looking down Chicago Avenue and there's just nothing. No traffic, there's no anything. It's just like, what's wrong? And we're one of the few people that worked through this. And it was weird because I mean we just worked with each other. There's no risk for us really. We didn't go out. We went home. We went to work. Went home, went to work, and but I think more than anything, seeing those characters reappear has been really reassuring. It's been a nice, not quite a rebirth necessarily, but it's something along those lines. It's been really nice to see.
Nick, you're taking us into the light. You're anticipating. I was going to take us into the light. You're doing it. You're doing it. That fact of the reappearance of, maybe the fellow down the street you hadn't seen for a while.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. No, we did too. It was a welcome sight. It was a welcome sight to see some of our normal friends and neighbors reappear slowly but surely. Regular customers at the bar, regular people at the bars that we would frequent. To see those people just to go to a regular bar. We have other neighborhood bars that maybe we don't. We've been there for 10 hours today. Maybe we'll go to the bar down the street.
Boy, wasn't it crazy the first time we went to, where did we go? Old Irving.
Yeah.
And we walked in there and we do some business with those guys now and the brewers as a friend of ours. And we walked into this place after, being in hibernation for God knows how long. And it just felt so strange to be sitting in a bar with other people. But it also felt, I don't know, like the tulips were coming up. It really did seem like, like spring was there in sort of a community sense or whatnot.
Yeah.
And,
well, I think at that point, it very much in a literal sense. Spring was
well,
spring.
that too. Certainly.
Yeah. yeah, it's been a wild ride, but you know we're getting through it, and you know by no means is this all over yet. But I think we're you know, as a city we're rallying around each other in our communities, our neighborhoods, and you know I think we've seen the better side of a lot of our friends and neighbors.
And thank God for Chicago. I mean, if you're going to be anywhere during the pandemic, this is my first choice. I mean, maybe New Zealand or something. But otherwise,
I won't ask you your last choice. I have to, here we are, an amazing brewery. Two gentlemen who work at another great brewery. Favorite beer these days? I think that's the question we should put out there.
Dovetail Hellas.
Yeah.
Probably the one I drink the most
Yeah.
of, which is why we're here, Matt.
That's perfect.
Yeah. No, I think I probably agree. This is certainly the beer I drink the most of lately.
At least of the ones we don't make ourselves.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is a definite favorite. We've got some other friend brew. We tend to go, you know, brewers hang out with other brewers at breweries way more than we ought to for our own health and sanity. But we do love going on tours, another neighborhood brewery down in West Town. They do some incredible stuff.
Similar to this area, Monroe, we have the brewing district. What do they call
Yeah,
it?
the brew district. Yeah.
Yeah, and so there's Finch Brewing down there, Great Central, On Tour, Midwest Coast, Forbidden Root,
Goose Island.
Goose Island, of course.
Yeah. District Brew Yards is now there.
Sure, can't forget that.
All Rise. I feel like I'm forgetting somebody else, but yeah, there's a lot of breweries down there.
That's wonderful. And that's a vote for folks who are watching. Come out. You might find you two here, or stop by Forbidden Root. So,
Yeah.
thank you so much, gentlemen.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That's great.
Thank you guys.
Friends, good afternoon. It's kind of a really, really great time to be out here in Chicago. We're between two trains. CTA on one side, Metro on the other. And you can come out to Beguile and have a beer, maybe a Kolsch, maybe their cream ale, and you can sit and talk. And now we're going to talk with Jim about the pandemic is like for him, Beguile, and the culture of bars. Good afternoon, approaching evening. I'm here with Jim, Beguile Brewing. Jim, how are you?
I'm doing well today. I can tell you, I did not expect to be interviewed on this lovely Tuesday, but this is a serendipitous surprise.
The Chicago Public Library came calling, and you answered.
Right.
This is amazing. We're talking to folks about what bars mean to them, bars during the pandemic. As the pandemic started, what was something that you noticed?
A definite hesitancy. Hesitancy and a proactive response from all the bars and restaurants that I previously had gone to, still go to, and like we're going to at the start of this. I mean, working at Beguile, Kevin Carey, the owner, had his thumb on the pulse of what was going on and shut us down, or furloughed me, myself, and another colleague a handful of weeks before everybody else did. So I know there was like a lot of issues with like unemployment and IDs that were happening like a month or two after like April, May. Because I have a lot of other friends and colleagues who are bartenders and servers who had a heck of a time navigating that. And I know my friend and I managed to get through with incredible ease. And I know, before we had to go complete shutdown, we're doing a one-in, one-out policy, to go only. And I know, you said you were at the G-Man previously. I know they were open during the pandemic. They opened their windows out and were doing to-go sales as well. So it was pretty wild to see how everybody accommodated and adapted to the changing circumstances that they found themselves in.
What's something that close to your heart, close to my heart. What's something that bars give Chicagoans?
Oh, community. A sense of belonging. I mean, you can go to any neighborhood in Chicago, and everybody's got their local dive or their local spot where, you walk in and people be like, "Hey, how's it going? I haven't seen you in a second." Can't imagine why. But I mean, like, yeah. Like, I used to live in Logan Square, and I still got my dives and my spots where friends work, and I'll go there. The G-Man is still my favorite bar in Chicago. I worked there for 2 or 3 years. Yeah, that's like, the bars, the service industry is my family, and apologies. I found a home when I was 21. Did not expect to find work in the service industry. I have a master's degree, and it was supposed to be just a stopgap between graduating grad school and going on to get a full-time job in the field that I went to school for. And then that was 5-6 years ago, and I've just fallen in love with the service industry. Yeah, and my parents at first were hesitant about it, but they've slowly come around, and they say they couldn't see me doing anything else at this point.
And that means, like you say, that's part of your kind of transformation, like bars and say the service industry. It seems so crucial for who you are.
Oh, I don't know what I would do with myself if I, wasn't working at a bar. I mean, probably something more healthy for me, certainly, but yeah, I don't. I love it.
You say you found family. I mean, that's
I did.
huge. That's huge.
Yeah, some of the closest friends I met going to punk shows and sitting at a bar or something until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning just talking about life. It's yeah, I don't know what I would do without.
I mean,
this
talking
community.
about life in a bar, that's pretty great,
Oh,
right?
without a doubt.
Yeah. Friends, today we've spent some time talking to folks for whom the communion around a bar, a gathering place, is a type of secular sacredness. The idea that you might stop by, take a look around, maybe pull up a chair, maybe go sit at the bar. This kind of conversation that's so valuable around these spaces. Many of us lost it during the pandemic. We couldn't go to these places. There was no other outlet. And certainly a Zoom room was no type of serious substitute. So we're so fortunate to have spoken to some of these folks who have held it down, shared their experiences, and we're coming out to hopefully what's a better place. I always like to end all of our programs with a haiku. And so I've come up with one for all of you based on some of what we've seen and experienced today. The violet hour cometh. There is a stool. Squeeze on in. Join the conversation.